Hello and welcome to the Sacred Gates here on YouTube. My name is Illura and welcome to the podcast. Today I'm going to do a little talk on creativity and the importance of effort when it comes to being creative. For a long time growing up for me, I didn't realize how important effort was, and in fact it really impeded my creativity overall because I didn't appreciate or understand the importance of effort when it comes to being a creative being. So the family that I grew up in was considered very creative. Pretty much all of us could draw and sing, play an instrument, create a song, come up with ideas, do things kind of on the fly. And that to us and to society around us meant that we were creative. And it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks when someone very close to me said, "Wow, you're really not very creative, are you?" And it took me by surprise. There's someone I really trust, and it went down well for me because I was ready to hear that. And it was also very interesting to me about, well, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? And once I understood what they meant and how it applied to me and how it applied to my life and also to parenting as well, it really got me interested in learning about the art of learning itself. And the art of learning is a very grand area. It's a wonderful area of learning itself. And when you can understand what's holding you back as a creative person, it can really help you to move forward and progress and make progress, which is really what it's about. So for me growing up, I thought I was a really creative person because I had a lot of ideas. I had a very quick imagination. I would often get visions. I could connect to the big picture quite quickly around an idea. I had a lot of free-flowing kind of energy and visions and things like that. And I felt very comfortable in a formless situation such as an improvised experience. I could improvise very quickly. And so I thought that I considered myself a strong creative person in that sense because you could put me in anything and I thought I could kind of move and adapt and come up with something creative and artistic in that sense. So my idea of creativity was actually at that time and for that long period of time quite restricted. So I didn't consider things that I now consider creative and artistic and art, such as martial arts. I never considered that. I didn't understand the creativity within what seemed like a rigid form. And so I'll go into that a little bit more around form and formless and its place in creativity. What I'm wanting to express in this podcast is the importance of effort when it comes to creativity, because without effort, there can be no real creativity. Creativity means progressing, getting better, evolving. And for me, I often found growing up that my creativity was limited because of my lack of discipline. Because discipline, without it, you cannot effort. If you don't have enough discipline, you're going to find that you can't just you don't have the energy to put in the effort. You don't have the mental energy, the mental stamina to put in the effort. If you don't have the discipline, it means that you're probably quite low on concentration. So you really need the concentration to have the discipline, and through the discipline, you're able to put in effort. Now, why do we need effort? What does creativity look like? As a young person or as an old person or someone going through high school or university, what does creativity look like if we don't have effort? Well, I often found growing up that I would get bored with things really quickly. I would think that I wasn't interested in something. So I'd find myself getting very emotional and passionate about something, but then I'd find also on some point in the journey that I wouldn't really feel passionate about it. I didn't really feel interested in it. So what I had was an aversion to that point in creativity, in that creative process where one needs to put in effort to progress and to stick through. And I also had an aversion to learning form. So just say a system of learning. So just say if you want to learn how to become a doctor or do cranial sacral or really anything, there's a point where you really need to learn the form for some time before you can get creative, especially with medical things and just say learning to fly an aeroplane. You don't want to get too creative when you're learning to fly an aeroplane. So there's a certain kind of sacred gate of learning, especially with some topics, but I would say with all topics to a degree, where you really need to pass through that gate of endurance and of form. So form is the structure and a certain way of doing something, and formless is the free flow and doing something with less form. So more change, more feeling, more sensing, more imagination. And so I grew up formless first, and now in my later years in life, I'm learning form. So for example, recently I had a wonderful singing teacher teach me the basics or the beginnings of the basics of singing. And she invited at the beginning of our session, she wasn't sure what I wanted. And she said to me very nicely, she said, if you'd like to just learn, like how to sing a song, and you don't really want to learn the rules and you just want to just have some fun getting back into singing, I'm happy to offer that to you if that's what you'd like. And I was, back in the day, I would have said, I just want to be free, carefree. But for me now, I just said, no, I really, really want to learn the fundamentals. I really, really need the foundations. I really want that. I'm craving that. And that's just because singing was such an early interest for me many, many, many years ago, but I never learned the form for it. And so I wasn't able to do a lot with it, even though I had a lot of potential. So what else creativity can look like when you have no effort going and no discipline, no concentration to apply to your creativity is that you can actually have a lot of natural talent, a lot of natural ability, but you can't do a lot with it. You can't see it through. You can't take it to the next level because you need effort to do that. So this causes a lot of creative people who have no ability with the effort side, who need more efforting, and that may not come naturally, or they don't believe that creativity should be restricted by effort. That can be an unconscious or conscious belief. If you're very creative and you're not into effort, you're going to find that you have a lot of knowledge potentially, and that you do a lot of what they call like mental masturbation, where you just talk about it. There are a lot of fine artists out there who are not painting, who are not sculpting, who are not creating, but they're flapping their gums a lot and talking about art. They're talking about money and art, for example. They're talking about techniques or artists or movements or periods in art, but they're not actually practicing their art. For me, growing up, being creative wasn't about trial and error, and so I developed a fear of learning. I didn't like the feeling of trialing and erroring, and I didn't like the feeling of what I call walking in the dark. Now I like the feeling of walking in the dark, but I do still sometimes feel that I have an aversion to not knowing what I'm doing. And that's quite common. And it's something that if you are a parent, we want to be able to help our children to understand that that's part of the process of learning, and it requires effort to get through those areas of insecurity. And so for me, I often had that stop-start. So if you have trouble with efforting in your creative process, you'll often be someone that will have an amazing cosmic experience, for example, and then you stop because you kind of fall into that trap of saying, hey, I experienced once, I've got it, and then you stop. Or you don't experience what you expect to be cosmic. You don't have that nice experience soon enough or at all, and so you stop because you have an aversion to the practice. You can get bored easily. Like I said, you think you're not interested. And so you become someone that's very non-adaptive, which isn't very creative at all. And so when that person said to me, you're not very creative, it hit me, and I really had to look at it. I was ready to look at it, and I thought, you know what? Oh my gosh, I'm not. And I looked at many areas of my life, and I realized, wow, I'm struggling with many areas because I actually am not very creative. I'm not coming up with solutions easily for all these issues, and I didn't feel like I couldn't think outside of the box. And so my creativity had become a construct, within the family I grew up, and onwards from there, without really questioning how my creativity was affecting me and whether it was really that creative, because I'd already just assumed that it was. And so by assuming, I had put myself into a box. And so when I was told that I wasn't creative, and then I looked at my life and I thought, well, I feel like I'm in a box in a lot of areas of my life. Like I'm not really seeing solutions or potential or possibilities or opportunities where other people are or where I'd like to in my life. So I realized, hey, I'm not that creative actually. And so what was missing for me was the effort, was the discipline, was the focus. So making sure that when we're just say learning any art, and it could be a spiritual art since this is a spiritual channel, if you are learning something at the moment and you're finding that you're just clinging to being really, really creative and you're not having that side of effort in your creative experience, you're not going to get very far at all. You just can't. You'll either stop, you'll burn out, you'll rely on the good times, on desire and passion alone, which isn't sometimes enough. And you'll find that when you hit roadblocks, which you will every day, really, if you're a practitioner, you're always kind of coming across those challenges that come from within, that you won't be able to overcome them. You won't then grow from them, and they won't shape your practice and your strength. So it's only through all these challenges that come up creatively, whether you're a writer or a martial artist, a healer, a gymnast, whatever it is that your art is, there's always going to be roadblocks. And if you don't have effort on your side, if you're not into efforting, if that's not part of your thing that you do, then you're going to find it's really difficult to go higher on that path, to awaken, the higher levels of that. And just say, as a teacher perspective and having students, I would much rather have a student that is completely inexperienced but is willing to put in 100% effort than a student, for example, that is really spiritually connected but doesn't want to put in any effort. And the fact is, if you take both those people and you put them on a kind of, if you were to put them on a metaphorical like starting line and a finish line, if you could, the person with no effort with zero ability but 100% willingness to effort will go so much further than the person with a huge amount of ability but zero effort. You get what I mean? So effort is hugely, hugely, hugely important. And it's always helpful to question whether you really are creative or not, and what creativity really is, and how form and formlessness fit together. I know that coming from Australia, I'm a citizen of Australia living in another country right now. And growing up Australian, and I would say most Western cultures, they put a lot of emphasis on being an individual. It's very, very important in Australian culture to be an individual. And I find that can be a little bit of a trick into making us, think that we're really creative. But creativity really does need to have some form there. So often if you're a creative person and you're an individual and you're developing all of that, there's a big emphasis on being really formless and doing your own thing. But yeah, as I said, natural talent and formlessness and all of that will really, really run out if you don't have the endurance, the ability to effort through those difficult times, and just to apply yourself so that you can, just say if you're a uni student or high school student, get through those exams, get through those lectures. You need effort to get to the gold of your path, to get to the treasure. And in the end, when you do develop a fantastic ability, just say spiritually, the gold really is also in the effort that got you there. I mean, because, if you recognize that without it, you have nothing, then the effort itself is so golden. It's so, so valuable to have that. And having been a child from a family that was all about, being creative in a particular way that had a lot to do with image. Honestly, it had a lot to do with image. My family thought they were really creative and cool, that can really be very damaging and very limiting. And you end up seeing things that are, in credit, that take so much effort to get that are so creative, yet behind it, there's so much effort. I didn't recognize that for a really, really long time. And I missed out a lot on that. So if you're someone that's really creative, genuinely creative, but you lack the effort, I really strongly recommend developing your concentration abilities, and so that you can develop more and more of that creativity, of that beautiful natural ability that God gave you, divine spirit gave you, your karma gave you, your higher self has given you, because each of us has some level of a natural ability. And even if you have zero natural ability, but you are interested in something that you would like to develop, or both, you have natural ability and an interest, you need effort big time to get you to the next level and to reach that high level, so that you can bring it back to society, you can share it with people around you, and it can benefit you too. So just wanted to do a little talk on that. Thank you so much. And the website's almost finished. The Sacred Gates website's taken a little bit longer than I wanted. Just recently my son had school holidays, so that kind of cut into my time just a little bit there. And I'm looking forward to releasing soon another freebie, another giveaway from the Sacred Gates. And actually it will help lead you to an exercise to help you with your concentration, which I believe is the key to spiritual development. Without the concentration, it's very difficult to get anywhere. So please stay tuned for that. Once that's ready, I'll actually add and edit a link in the description. It won't be available right now in this video, but I'll add it soon. So keep your eye out for that. And once it's ready, it'll be available, and I'll give it a mention, a shout out in all the videos up and coming with the Sacred Gates. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you're having a great day. Bye-bye for now.